My name's Eric Welander, welcome to my channel. So given that I talk a lot about smart home tech here on YouTube, I get the opportunity to try a lot of home surveillance cameras. And Ubiquiti Unifi Protect system is expensive and it takes a lot of extra effort to run Ethernet cable throughout your home to make it all connect. But why do their products seem to sell out just as fast as Ubiquiti can make them? And why are there so many nerds on the internet like myself who love using their products? And while I want to talk about this system and why I love it in this video, I also want to clarify how it's not perfect and it's not for everyone. And I want to get to something that a lot of you probably assume I use with my Ubiquiti system, but I actually think is a terrible idea. So what is Unifi Protect in the first place? Well, Unifi is a suite of products from Ubiquiti that does everything from networking to video surveillance to door access and phone systems and even more. Now, at the core of any Ubiquiti system is a Unifi console, and that's what runs the smarts that powers whatever you choose to use with it. And while these products are targeted at small to medium businesses, the modular approach means you can find a lot of setups that work well in a home, particularly if you have a home office and like to tinker with all the details of making things just right in your smart home. Now, I previously made a video on my Ubiquiti Wi-Fi setup, so I'll link that below the like button. But the first step in any Ubiquiti setup is getting a console. Now, there are a lot of different options here, but I would look at either the Dream router or the Ubiquiti Dream Machine Pro, at least at the time of recording this video. Those seem to be the most relevant probably for most people. If you're just interested in using the Unifi Protect video recording system, then you could look at their network video recorder. Now, any of these consoles and then the accessories that go with them is gonna cost a bunch of money. And all of these have differing capacities of how many cameras and other things they can have going on at any given time, because these are computers that sort of have limits of how much CPU and memory and stuff they have inside of them. Well, there's complexity here. One of the things Ubiquiti is great at doing is visualizing complex data in ways that are easy to understand. And they have a great interactive chart on their website that helps you understand which system would work best for your needs, so I'll link that below as well. Now, each of these consoles record video from your cameras locally, so there's no subscription fees, and they can record continuous video, which means that a lot of video systems these days will just record when they detect motion or other events. And so you look back at your video history and all you have are the times when the camera happened to notice something. Whereas with continuous video recording, like with this Ubiquiti system, you get all of the video for a period of time. So no matter whether your camera picked up a motion event or not, it's going to be recorded and saved. But of course, you need cameras to actually record the video, and Ubiquiti has a bunch of different options there. Now, you'll see a G4 in the name of some cameras and G3. The G4 cameras from Ubiquiti are their Generation 4 series, and those have their AI image detection for things like vehicles or people or even packages or even license plates in certain cases. But the key thing is that a lot of these cameras, as I mentioned, run with a hardwired connection to your console. And this is over Power over Ethernet, or PoE. And this means you plug an Ethernet cable into a PoE port on your console or a switch or a PoE adapter, and then that one cable can carry both the power and the data to and from the camera. And that's a key thing to note here, is beyond just carrying the data reliably, PoE delivers the electricity, so you don't need batteries on the camera. A lot of other camera systems that use wireless cameras, of course, those cameras that are wireless have to have a battery to keep them going. And while Ubiquiti does sell some Wi-Fi cameras and they're nice in certain cases, I would say you're not really getting your money's worth if you just use their Wi-Fi cameras. You really should look at using their hardwired cameras if at all possible. Well, my G3 Instant works pretty well. It does drop every so often from my Wi-Fi network, and I find that the Ethernet cameras are just going to be more reliable. That said, either way, with Wi-Fi or wired, you get the continuous video recording back to your console. And speaking of my setup, I have that wireless G3 instant camera in my twins' room so we can check in on them when we're not close to the baby monitor. I also have a G4 bullet aimed at my driveway, and this is a great way to see when people or vehicles arrive at my home. And then just to record continuously, I have a G3 Flex in my garage as well as a G3 Flex on my back porch. And thanks to Robert Spivak, who I've interviewed before on this channel, for sending me out an extra G3 Flex that he didn't need anymore. I've left a link to his YouTube channel down in the description below. So while the G3 cameras don't have the fancy image detection of the G4 cameras, they can be a little bit cheaper, and so a nice way to save money in places where you don't really need those extra smarts. So why do I enjoy and continue to use my Ubiquiti system? Well, it's not the only system out there that has cameras that connect over Ethernet. And it's not the only system out there that offers continuous video recording, but it does do a pretty good job at both of those. And because it's locally recorded, there are no subscription fees and there's very limited video compression. So I find the quality of the video clips that it records is better than maybe other cameras that, let's say, recorded a higher resolution, let's say maybe 4K instead of 1080p or 2K, but the image is so much more compressed because it's sent wirelessly to some other hub and then up to some cloud service. And then you're looking at an image from a nighttime video clip and there's just all kinds of noise in the low light areas that you don't get as much with the Ubiquiti system. Of course, none of these cameras are going to be the quality of, let's say, a point and shoot or even your phone. It's just a whole different world than what you might think of from photography cameras. But that's another conversation for another day. And because everything's hardwired and local in your home, I find that the push notifications come to my devices very quickly. And my wife loved this when I set her up with the system as well, that she was able to know right when someone arrived at our driveway. And it just makes us both feel a lot safer. I also like the Apple TV app as an easy way to put up live video of any of the cameras if I need to, let's say, monitor the children while they're playing outside on the back deck, or keep an eye on the driveway. Maybe I'm expecting someone and I'm worried I might miss the notification on my phone. I can just keep a live view up on the TV in my office while I'm working. But one of the real features that I think sets Ubiquiti apart from any other system is their ability to visualize data. So when you have a Ubiquiti system, when you're on your network, you can log into this web portal and see all kinds of information about the systems you're using. So in this case with Unifi Protect, you see a nice gallery of thumbnails of different events that have happened recently across your cameras, as well as a timeline of your different cameras with some sort of hotspots where there was activity, and you can jump to those. Now, the mobile apps don't have quite this good of a UI to get to a particular place in a video recording, but the mobile apps are just as good as viewing recording on pretty much any other system that I've tried. And there are also some nice details with the customization options. For example, with my wireless G3 Instant that's in my twins' room, I disabled the microphone on that because I just don't want that audio to be recorded, even if it's not going out to a cloud service. And with that, you can't re-enable the audio recording on a camera until you hard reset the camera. This means that anyone with access to your Ubiquiti system can't just go turn on the microphone temporarily and listen in to what's happening on the camera without anybody else around the camera knowing that's happening, because of course you'd have to walk over to the camera, physically reset the device, and then re-add it to your Ubiquiti system. So not something you're just gonna casually do to hear a conversation. Now, running Ethernet cables in your home takes time and learning about how to do that, or hiring someone to do it, but I will say it is time well spent. Whether it's for a Ubiquiti Unifi Protect system or something else, it's just going to be a reliable way to connect different pieces of your smart home together. And if you have a home with, let's say, an accessible crawl space or a basement or even an attic, then you can potentially run cables up or down to that place and then across your home to another location. The other key thing you'll need for something like a Unifi Protect system is probably ways to run Ethernet cables to the outside. For example, in my home, I had no problem going up into the area above my garage, which is basically like an attic storage area, and then down through the eave on the side of my home to mount my bullet. And then for the camera on my back deck, I actually already had a hole in the foundation that the cable company had been using to run some cable, and I didn't need that extra space in that hole. It was just filled with insulation. So I was able to use that to run the Ethernet cable out to the outside. But if you're thinking of building a new home or redoing an existing part of your home, just consider that where you might want to put cables and or holes or places to have cables in the future, because running Ethernet can be a huge benefit to your smart home. For this, I spent a bunch of time myself in 2022 getting the necessary tools and cables and learning about how to run Ethernet cable. And I consider that a useful skill to have on into the future as I potentially do other projects around my smart home where I might want to run Ethernet cable. Now, there's one thing that you probably are dying for me to talk about, and that's scripted. And I think scripted is a terrible idea. Now, if you're not familiar, scripted.app is sort of an open source platform to take video from basically, theoretically, any source of video surveillance and run it to any smart home platform you're choosing. And so a lot of people use scripted to connect Ubiquiti Unifi cameras into their Apple Home setup. Now, well, there's nothing wrong with this. I think that if you're buying into the Ubiquiti system, the value there is in their software and their platform. And as I mentioned earlier, their ability to visualize the data and show you the events that are happening. And I just don't think it's worth the trouble to also run this extra customized, open sourced thing in addition to their platform to get those cameras to work on your Apple Home. I think if you want cameras in HomeKit, then for those use cases, you should look towards something with maybe Apple's HomeKit Secure Video. But for the time being, I think Ubiquiti cameras and the Ubiquiti software is better than HomeKit until Apple improves some key areas, which I talked about in this video, linked somewhere here on the screen. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.